Lots to talk about today because La Liga was playing this weekend. Ligue 1 was playing this weekend. We had big games in the two leagues, and the Premier League, of course, continuing after the restart of the previous week with big results. Chelsea, Spurs, City, Newcastle, all of them not winning. Arsenal winning, and we will start there because they finished the year as top of the table. They're starting the new year as top of the table after an impressive, or certainly for some of it, win at Brighton. Robbo.
Absolutely. I thought it was fairly impressive in particularly the second half against West Ham. They completely dominated that game. And although they didn't have all the ball against Brighton had more possession.
Yeah.
Every time they went forward, Arsenal, they looked as though they were going to score goals. I mean, so much pace in the side, there's so much creativity, players running with the ball, players picking out the right passes, the movement off the ball, a centre forward who we're unsure about, still playing well. The two wide players have been absolutely brilliant for Arsenal. And they start games at such a pace. Yeah. And it's difficult for, Brighton were out the game, or seemed to be out the game so early on.
Yeah, after I think 66 seconds is the Bukayo Saka goal. So Arsenal have 43 points out of 48. So the only defeat they had was obviously United.
And they outplayed Manchester United for much of that game.
Yeah. And that disallowed goal as well. The draw was away at Southampton, where they looked to have the game in control and then conceded in the second half. No team that have had so many points at this stage of the season have not gone on and win the title. They're 7 points clear of City with similar games played, but they will have to face City twice. Obviously, because they haven't played them yet this season. So one game is in February, and the next one is in April. But they look very good right now, right? For this title challenge, I guess.
The confidence that's flowing through the club at the moment, you can see that the crowd, the noise the crowd are making, the centre backs. I'm still not quite sure about the centre backs as being really top class players because they will make errors.
Yeah, we saw Saliba, for example, against Brighton.
When he shouldn't have made the error, obviously. Yeah. But they look so comfortable sometimes on the ball. They're winning headers. Every time they go up at set plays, they look as though they're going to certainly get their head on the end of things. So there's so many things about Arsenal at the moment that are good. I read somewhere that they haven't got a plan B. Well, I've seen them play 2 or 3 different ways.
Me too.
They've played counter-attacking football at the very highest level, in terms of... And Brighton had a lot of possession, but they won back the ball in good areas and counter-attacked well. They've dominated possession at home in certain games and look like creating chances, even against sides that want to defend deeply. And they look like they're an athletic side that want to go and win the ball back. They want to recover well. When you see the team's recovery, they recover quicker than most teams are trying to run forward. So that's always a good sign. Yeah,
I mean, you see the counter-pressing on the Saka goal, for example. The way Partey and Zinchenko recover the ball so quickly. And then because you recover the ball so high, then it goes to Martinelli. There's a bit of luck on the cross and the way Saka receives the ball. But after that, it's much easier. I've been very impressed with them without the ball, almost, for all the talent that you mentioned with the ball and the different way they attack and the way they move the ball.
The best teams when I was playing football, the best teams were always the hardest to play against. Not particularly when they had the ball, but when you had the ball, because they shut you down quickly. You didn't have time on the ball to pick out a pass. And when you play against Arsenal at the moment, you don't have too much time on the ball in most of the games.
So in the podcast bit, sorry, we will mention a bit more Arsenal in details and Brighton and De Zerbi as well, because they came back in the game. If Mitoma, the second goal of Mitoma, the 4-3 in the 89th minute stands, then the end of the game might be completely different. But just to finish on Arsenal for the TV segment here, there's one player that I think right now is maybe above everybody else in that team is Martin Odegaard, who was fantastic against West Ham in everything he did with the ball and again against Brighton.
I mean, I questioned him when he first came. I think, has he got enough pace to play in that? Did he look like a poor man's Mesut Ozil? But that's not been the case. He's got better and better. He can run with the ball. He can pick out passes and he can score goals. He's been brilliant.
And also again, I think he's one of the one that runs the most, presses the most, sprints the most. I mean, everything that he also gives you when he doesn't have the ball. And as a captain, he might not be the most flamboyant in the term, like the big shouter, or I don't think he's got that rocking personality.
Do you need
for example. Maybe you don't need, but he certainly leads by example. And without the ball, I'm always amazed of all the efforts that he makes and everything. I think he's certainly at this moment in time, and maybe the break for the World Cup, and he didn't go with Norway, of course.
And would you say he's playing a little bit like Griezmann did for France at the World Cup? Because he can play in the number 10 role, but he's almost playing that little bit deeper, and then goes and joins in the front areas, and then he's doing the defensive side of the game. So I've been very impressed with him this season.
No, me too.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.